Hey, Kevin, you ready? Okay, let's roll. Good morning, everyone. I'm calling this meeting to order. Board Secretary, please take the roll. Trustee Lee Reader. Present. Gilbert.
Present.
Abdus.
Here.
Beans.
Here.
Barandis. Perez.
Present.
Smith.
Here.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to the approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Okay, motion to approve the agenda by Trustee Abdus, seconded by Trustee Perez. Board Secretary, please take the roll. Trustee Reader. Aye. The Reader, aye. Gilbert.
Aye.
Gilbert, aye. Abdus.
Aye.
Abdus, aye. Baines.
Aye.
Baines, aye. Barandis.
Aye.
Barandis, aye. Perez.
Present.
Perez, aye. Smith.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Motion's approved. Agenda's approved. Okay, let's go on to the Pledge of Allegiance. Trustee Baines, can you lead us in the pledge?
Ready? Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, does anyone have any conflicts of interest in today's agenda? Okay, hearing none, moving on to presentations. Today is the proposed stormwater service fee public hearing, and I'm officially calling the hearing to order. Good morning. Agenda item number 2 will be a public hearing on the district's proposed stormwater service fee. I am RD 1000 Board of Trustees President Elena Lee Reader, and I will be presiding over the hearing today. Today's public hearing gives property owners the opportunity to provide comments and questions to this board. The procedure for the public hearing will be as follows. First, we will provide a brief overview of the proposed stormwater service fee and the ballot proceeding. Next, we will open the public hearing so property owners can speak about the proposed stormwater service fee. We will take public comments first from commenters in the room and then our remote participants. Those wishing to speak should form a line at the dais. And for the remote participants, please use the raise your hand function and speak when your name is called. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Generally speaking, the board will not respond to public comment. However, at its discretion, the board reserves the right to direct staff to respond to specific questions or comments. After everyone who wishes to speak has had the opportunity to do so, there will be a final call for ballots submitted. Official results will be reported at the next RD 1000 board meeting, which convenes at 8 a.m. Friday, April 14th, here at the district office. General Manager King will now provide a short overview of the proposed stormwater service fee.
See my screen with the presentation for Natomas that's being shared. Okay, I see some head nods, so I'll just go through the presentation. I'm going to turn off my video. I have a really bad connection. Yeah.
Kevin, hold on a second. Is there a way to put that full screen on the presentation? Thank you.
Yeah, let me see here. Is that better?
Yes.
All right, so we're gonna go through this brief presentation. It's just background. I don't know why these transitions keep going through, but the For Natomas program started about 2 years ago, and I just want to go through the background of how we got to where we are today. I'll try to go to the next page here. So starting in 2020, the district initiated a capital improvement plan update. So it was a 30-year plan and looked at the life cycle replacement cost of all of our infrastructure. And the goal was to really increase the reliability of our infrastructure and decrease the risk. And so when we looked at the 30-year CIP plan, it essentially took us out of a run to failure mode and back into a life cycle replacement mode for all of our infrastructure. So we did an entire inventory of all the facilities that we have, where they're currently at in the life cycle of those facilities. And so that the Board of Trustees adopted that plan in 2020. Obviously, the plan included more expenditures than the revenues that we currently have. And so we initiated in right after the CIP plan in 2020, initiated a comprehensive financial plan, and phase one kicked off and was approved by the board in 2021. And what that did was looked at a financial model and it forecasted our anticipated expenditures and revenue requirements over the next 30 years, which coincide with very good alignment with the CIP plan. So what do we anticipate our needs are going to be, both on an operations and maintenance expectancy and a capital improvement plan to keep pace with replacing our infrastructure on life cycle as opposed to a run to failure mode. So following that phase one study in 2021, which the board adopted, we started phase two of the comprehensive financial plan, and that was concluded in November of 2022. What phase two identified was a funding plan for a flood safe future for Natomas. So basically closing the revenue and expenditure gap, and I'll go into some of those details here in just a moment. If I can scroll to the next page. So the funding for a flood safe future for Natomas, I just want to go through kind of the history of our funding, how Natomas has evolved since the last funding update, and the current state of our infrastructure, kind of where it lines up with this catastrophic combination of a perfect storm. And then how do we fund flood safety fairly, and what we came up with as a new approach, although it's industry practice, we've come up with a new approach for Natomas and how we've historically paid for our services. And then I'll talk briefly about the public process and how we get through the rest of the public hearing today. So RD1000, our current revenue sources, we generate about $3.7 million annually. It's based on an existing assessment district, and there's 5 zones of benefit for the district, and how the assessment is based is depending on the zone that you're in within our basin, you are charged a different rate based on zones of benefit. So the district receives about $2.3 million annually from that special assessment. We also receive $1.4 million annually from the Sacramento Area Flood Control Agency and their Consolidated Capital Assessment District, which just started in 2014. And so the district receives an additional $1.4 million for exterior levee operations and maintenance based on what we call CCAD2. There is a slight escalator, but SAFCA issued that special assessment to the ratepayers in Natomas to assure bond payments. So that funding from CCAD2 will no longer exist to RD1000 after the bonds are paid off, and that time frame is about 2040, 2041. But right now, currently, we receive an additional $1.4 million to help fund the exterior levee improvements that were done as part of the Natomas Levee Improvement Project. Natomas, since our last rate change, the cost of living in Natomas is more than outpaced our rates. In 1992, an average home would have cost about $121,000 a year. Last year, that same size home in Natomas, an average home price is about $835,000, and yet our rates have remained static since that time. And you can just see here, this is an aerial of the Natomas Basin since 1995 and our last rate increase. In the middle of the screen here on the left-hand side is the former Arco Arena, or which is now being removed. But even in 2021, you can see it in the center of the screen here on the right-hand side of the picture. And you can just see the massive development of and highly urbanized district. In 1995, largely our land use was primarily agriculture. Obviously, there was some development in Arco Arena there in the middle, and then obviously the Sacramento International Airport. But the need for flood protection for Natomas has expanded significantly based on the population that now resides. We have over about 200,000 people within our basin, which is a stark difference from 30 years ago. In 1995, there were relatively 0 homes within our basin. The current state of our infrastructure, because we've had deferred maintenance over the last 30 years and not reinvested in the infrastructure with static rates, we are in a run to failure mode. Most of our equipment is beyond its useful life. It's inefficient and costly to run. There are many instances of in our district that there's a single point of failure. In fact, just in February earlier this year, we had a single point of failure that we almost had to reroute flights from the airport because we had an electrical explosion in pumping plant 2 with no ability to have spare parts on the shelf to fix that. Fortunately, we were able to get some emergency repairs done that brought us back to 50% operating capacity, and we avoided rerouting flights. But there are multiple instances of single points of failure within the district, which obviously leads to risky reliability. This, we joke about all the time, duct tape and barbed wire, but literally this is right across from the office on Garden Highway at Pumping Plant 1A. When I started as the general manager in 2019, the first facility I visited was Pumping Plant 1A, and I walked in, and this is the duct tape that's on the end of one of the motor bearings. So obviously not industry standard practice for repair, and what want to get from and run to failure. So what we feel is a catastrophic combination, or the perfect storm, is 30 years of static funding, deferred infrastructure maintenance. Obviously, the evolution, as we saw from those satellite images of Natomas, it's far expanded beyond what we saw in 1995 and the population base requiring our services to prosper and live their lives and be successful. So with all those combined, we see that it's an elevated risk for devastating floods, and we have again almost 200,000 people in the basin that require our services. So what we did was develop this new approach. We want to be fiscally responsible of our future. We identified the current and future infrastructure investment needs, developed that comprehensive financial plan, and obviously our needs exceed our revenue streams currently. And so that's why we went out for a Proposition 218 to secure the necessary funding in the stormwater service fee proposal to make sure that we have a flood safe future for Natomas. Lots of details here. Essentially, our current revenues generate about $2.3 million, plus the 1.4 from SAFEGA from CCAD2. We are looking to generate an additional $3.3 million annually in our new proposed stormwater service fee. We went out and solicited a protest, start in in late 2020. There was no majority protest at the November hearing, and so therefore we're here today as a second step in a majority approval of the proposed service fee. We've done a significant amount of public outreach. We wanted to be fully transparent and collaborative in this process. express the needs of the district that we're trying to, our goal is to be fiscally responsible. There's fairness in the fees and assessments that we're proposing for a flood safe future. We've attended very numerous face-to-face forums and continue to reach out to the community and really embarked on this effort to educate the public on the need for flood funding for Natomas. So like I said, the timeline here in our public process, we're at step 2 of the final portion of the Proposition 218. We've done a lot of outreach over the last 18 months. And so I'll turn it back over to the board or to the public if there's any questions at this point. Until the public hearing is closed, the district hasn't opened any ballots. And based on the procedures that were adopted back in December for our election count, we will proceed with the vote tally next week and start opening ballots once we close the public hearing this morning. Any questions from the board or the public on the presentation?
Does any member of the Board of Trustees wish to make any statements or have any questions of consultant staff at this moment? Okay. With no further questions from board members, I hereby open the hearing for public comment on the proposed stormwater service fee.
I've been through the draft report, and there's some things that I don't quite understand in the methodology. And going to what was on the screen, $834,000 home, which typically would be somewhere on a 5,000 square foot lot, I'm assuming. That equates to about $7.3 million per acre in value. And that's what we're protecting primarily on ag land. And I think I remember the number is like $335 per acre for ag land in the service fee. Is that correct?
Kevin, can you respond? Is that correct?
Yeah, I was trying to get the video back up so I could see. What was the question again?
$335 per acre for ag land development is the service fee. Is that correct? Did I read that right in the report? It's somewhere in that ballpark.
I don't have the report in front of me right now, but $330 does not seem accurate. I believe the per acre charge is about 227, but I don't have the fee report in front of me right now.
Order magnitude above 200, somewhere between 200 and maybe 330 is what I read in the draft report. And when you look at ag land as an owner, you're looking at maybe $225 per acre for lease, and that's if you have good rice land. If you're doing nothing out there, then you're not getting any revenue to offset this increase in service fee. And so it seems like an excessive burden for ag land owners out there, and especially when you go 100, 200, 500 acres at a whack. And I represent an ownership interest that are in excess of around 2,500 acres. So bottom line is, I think the methodology should have been based more on valuation, because that's what you're protecting. If a flood hits a crop, there's crop insurance and miscellaneous other things to protect that. So that was one of the things that I had an issue with. And that was it. Thank you. Not that it's changing it at this point. I mean, for the average homeowner, I think it's $26, whatever. It's like, oh, that's a good deal to protect my $835,000 home. So
Thank you for those comments. Anyone else? Okay, Kevin, is there anyone virtually?
There are no other participants besides myself on the call.
Kevin, can we respond to Mr. Norman's question relative to the burden on ag land?
Sure, I would be happy to respond to that. So yes, the rate that has been referenced, and I apologize that I don't have it in front of me as I have limited connection, but the rates that were sent out on the ballot does equate to about $225, I believe, per acre of land, and that's applied equitably and evenly across all lands within the district. However, the rates that are charged, so that's based on gross acreage or gross square footage, there is an ISC factor that then is applied. So the methodology incorporates the impervious surface coefficient, and for ag ground that is 0.4 a factor. And so when you look at the gross square footage of a parcel, it's reduced by the factor of the ISC factor. And so the net square footage is far less than the gross acreage of the district. But everyone is so then you calculate based on those ISC factors, which incorporates, ag use or commercial or industrial or retail. And so ag actually has the lowest ISC factor, and therefore their gross or their net square footage is reduced. However, every single acre or square foot in the district is charged the same exact rate. So that's about $27 per net square foot. And so that's applied. So the methodology is sound. We've talked about it almost ad nauseum now about how we applied the ISC factors, and we have 24 different customer classes. And so ag ground is the lowest ISC factor, and therefore on a net square footage basis would pay less than any other property in the district. But the rate is still the same and the methodology is the same for everyone. It's just how the ISC factor is applied.
Mr. Norman, did you have a follow-up question? Turn on your microphone, please.
yeah, it primarily goes down to the valuation discussion that I was having. If impervious surface, fine, that there's an adjustment factor for that. And when you look at the economics of ag and how the service fee is going to affect that, I think you're going to see some effects in the planting industry out here, basically the farming industry, because that's a big number at $200 and something an acre. It doesn't equate in my mind.
Yeah, so I just want to respond, Nick, to that real quickly here. I did run some numbers for a agricultural producer who has about 1,400 acres in the basin, and the net difference for that grower is about $6 per acre.
That was going to be my question, Kevin. Thank you. So the per acre fee of 200, whatever it was, $200 and some change is the IFC factor is applied to that number, and the per acre fee is derived from
Correct.
that. Okay.
Yeah, but every single acre or square foot in the district, the rate is exactly the same. It's the ISC factor that changes, and so we reduce the impervious surface coefficient, reduces the square footage that actually runs off. So in reality, the majority of the proposed fee increase is going to be paid by Sacramento County for the airport. In fact, almost about 20% of the 3.3 million that's to be generated from the proposed fee will come from the airport. And obviously that's because they have a lot of runoff. It's concrete, it's asphalt, and all of that water that falls within the boundaries of the airport go into our drains, and then we pump out. land is a lot different than that. A lot of it goes into deep percolation and doesn't run off into our drains, and therefore they use less of our services. And that's why the ISC factor is so much less than, for instance, industrial or commercial.
Thanks, Kevin. Can you repeat, when you said you ran a calculation for a 1,400 acre ag individual, what did that come out to in acres? $6 an acre?
It was about $6 an acre, correct?
All right, thanks.
Is there anyone who has not had the opportunity to speak and would like to speak on this issue? Okay. At this time, I'm issuing a last call for ballot submission for the proposed stormwater service fee. Please place any ballots that you wish to have counted in the ballot box. I believe it's actually in the front of the office. And ballots received after the conclusion of the public hearing will not be counted. We will take a 5-minute recess to allow property owners time to complete and turn in their ballots.
Hi, Linda. This is Kevin back here. Are we done with our 5-minute recess?
I'm teasing you because he's not supposed to, and Linda's not here to gavel him in. Tom Brandis, you're good? Tom,
Tom's
you're
happy.
good?
Tom said they fixed me. I'm gonna have donuts again, but you know. That's right.
There's coffee too, Tom.
I don't have to worry about it for 25 more years.
That's my price for sitting in this room.
I know where all my stuff is.
No.
It turned out that was the one. Oh, well, that is that one.
I think so.
Oh, oh, that's one. Testing. Okay, we're going to start this hearing back. What are we doing? Crazy times come together. It's taking a long time. Mr. Smith? Hi, Trustee Smith. Will you join us? Thank you. Okay, this hearing is now back in session. Property owners.
Board
have the
President, I
opportunity-
believe there's an open mic at the podium, or somebody has an open mic that's coming back on the recording.
Okay. This
All right,
hearing is
that's
now
better.
back in session. Property owners have had the opportunity to submit their ballots, and the period for public comment is now hereby closed. I will now entertain a motion from the board to direct staff to begin the tabulation of ballots and announce the official results on April 14th at 8 a.m.
So moved.
Motion by trustee Abdus, seconded by trustee Smith. Board secretary, please take the roll.
Trustee Lee Reader.
Aye.
Lee Reader, I. Gilbert.
Aye.
Gilbert, I. Abdus.
Aye.
Abdus, I. Baines.
Aye.
Baines, I. Barandis.
Brains, aye.
Barandis, I. Perez.
Aye.
Perez, I. Smith.
Aye.
Smith, I. Thank you, motion carried.
This hearing is now adjourned. We will return to our regularly scheduled board meeting. Okay, Kevin, do we have any public comments on non-agenda items?
I do not see any in the chat.
Okay, hearing none, moving on to informational items. I'll turn items 4.1 through 4.3 over to the general manager.
Yeah, nothing to add, other than what's been printed in the board packet, and I would entertain questions on item 4.1.
I would like to open a discussion about the state of Natoma sponsorship.
Oh, yes. Yeah, thank you. We do have an opportunity to participate in the state of Natomas at a sponsorship level for, let me get to the page here. It's an annual event, and we normally do participate at a sponsorship level and have a table. And so we have recently received the flyer for the state of Natomas. This is item 4.1 attachment 2. And so it's March 23rd. We do have the opportunity to sponsor a table, and we've done so in the past. And so if the board so wishes to approve, we can obviously sponsor again at a specified level. And I also need to let the state of Natomas know how many would also attend, right? So the platinum level is, 8 tickets, and a sponsorship goal is 4. So typically it's a few of the trustees and executive staff, but whatever you guys would like to do, let me know and we'll get the reservation made.
Yeah, Kevin, I understand from some members of the chamber that the district might be invited to do a presentation, given the recent storms. So I don't know if you formally received that request.
Yeah, I have not received that
Okay.
request. At least, yeah, while I've been on vacation, I've had some limited internet coverage, but I don't believe I received that request to present, but would be happy to do so.
This is Tom, Kevin. I have no idea of what state of Natomas. Can you give me a 1 minute? Is it a 1 day seminar? Haven't heard of it before.
Yeah, the state of Natomas is put on by the North Natomas community, so the Chamber of Commerce, and so it's an annual event that they put on, and there's elected officials that are invited, and it's kind of like a mixer, and so it's not an all day program, usually about half a day, and so we have an opportunity to join them again this year. We've done so in the past, and I don't know. Nick has probably could speak on it a lot more eloquently than I can because he's obviously been involved in that for a long time. So Nick, I don't know if you have anything more to add than what I suggested. So
Yeah, Tom, so the chamber has had this annual event. It's been, there are many threads that comprise the fabric of Natomas, and the chamber stated Natomas. It used to be a luncheon. I think this is the first year they're doing a dinner. So it's a great opportunity to, obviously convey what we do, and being invited to present relative to, flood risk and matters. I think it's great. I'm fully supportive of this. I think it's important for us to be active and engaged in our greater community. And this is a good opportunity to do that.
Okay, thanks.
I've attended this. It's a great event. We, in the past, when we discussed this, and one of the tenants today talked about reaching out and saying he's running for RD 1000, and homeowners go, what is RD 1000? So in interest of transparency and in connection, we were very supportive of this. Again, I see that we're listed as invited guests. I don't know, Kevin, if that means you get to do a presentation, but we've done presentations up and down the district, so maybe they don't want to hear more about it. But I do think that this is a good way for
Tom.
us to-
So I did see that on the flyer as well, and we did do a sponsorship last year for State of Natomas, and we had our video running as we were kicking off the For Natomas program. So invited guests, we would be happy to attend if the board so chooses. So I think what we really want to determine is how many of the trustees would like to attend and at what level of sponsorship, and then staff will put together a presentation and coordinate with the chamber to make sure that we have adequate time and what they're looking for. So literally just need to know so we can get the reservation complete by March 23rd. If you guys are interested in attending, we'll take it from here.
Okay, let's just go ahead and streamline this. Everybody check your calendars. If you want to attend, let Kevin know, and we will hammer it out from there. Another question I have for you, Kevin, is are we ready for this weekend? We have a bunch of storms and snow melting. I'm sure this is in the back of everyone's mind.
Yeah, so I think that at this point, we can go on to item 4.2. Actually, before we close out the general manager's report, do we want to sponsor at the platinum level and have eight seats? Is that the comfort of the board, or would you guys like to do something less?
That I support that. Yeah.
Okay. Good, and it's within, it doesn't require a board motion. I just want to know in general what the board's feeling is. So we'll submit for a platinum sponsorship. And then please reach out to me and let me know if you'd like to attend. We'll make sure that we have a seat available for you. In regards to the upcoming storm, that's a good segue into item 4.2 in the general or the operations manager's report. We are prepared. Unfortunately, at pumping plant 4, the generator was relocated by the Corps and others, but Gabe has reached out to the vendor, and that genset is actually still available to us. We do not anticipate needing that. However, if we do get into a situation that we need pumping plant 4 and the backup gen set, that we could have it delivered within, a matter of hours. And so that would be a management decision, operations decision at that point, because we most likely need to rent the gen set for about a month, which is about $50,000 a month. But we do not anticipate needing to do that over this coming weekend. We are due to receive about 3 inches of rain. It is forecasted that we will be back into the monitor stage at the Verona station. I think, Gabe, correct me if I'm wrong, but tomorrow afternoon or this evening, we should be back at 32 feet elevation on the Sacramento River. And then so we'll start our 24/7 patrol again at a monitoring level. So our crews will be working 24/7.
Yeah, that's correct. And other than that, we're in good shape as far as interior drainage canals. We've been pumping quite a bit before the storm just to make some room. And there's going to be a lull for the next day and a half. So we'll continue pumping down the drainage canals in preparation for the upcoming storm event. So, and overall, we're in good shape. If things need to change with Plant 4, we'll make the necessary changes.
Okay, so just to be clear, the Verona levels are under 32 at this moment.
Yeah, the Verona levels are about 22 feet right now. We
Okay,
anticipate it's forecasted to reach 32 late Saturday, early Sunday at this point.
and just so the public knows, 32 feet is when we start monitoring much more closely.
Yeah, 32 feet at the Verona station actually starts the requirement and activation of our emergency response plan, which is just monitor. No, it's not in flood stage, but it does require us, according to the emergency action plan, to initiate 24/7 patrols.
Kevin, what is the, at what point do they open the weirs?
That's a very good question, Tom. And it varies depending. So you're talking about the Sacramento Weir. And so it depends on the Sacramento River inflows, and if it's gaining or increasing or decreasing for a specified time frame. It has to be a number of consecutive days above 32 and rising for them to open up the weirs. But this is what we anticipate in looking at the forecast for this weekend and into early next week is a lot less significant than the storm events that we experienced in January this year and over New Year's. And so even during those significant events, the Sacramento Weir into the Yola bypass wasn't open because it didn't meet the threshold from DWR. We don't anticipate that happening again with this upcoming storm, but we'll see. Obviously, conditions change daily, but we monitor that forecast and projected river stages. So as soon as the weirs are open, you'll be the first to know, probably, Tom, because it's right across from your house. But we'll let the rest of the board know if DWR does decide to open the Sacramento Weir.
Thank you.
Anything for the operations manager's report, Gabe?
Yeah, nothing to add here.
On to district council's report.
Good morning. So as you can clearly observe, we're back in the world of in-person meetings. A reminder, if you are going to need to do remote participation from this point forward, you're going to need to give staff an early heads up so we can put it on the agenda and appropriately handle that coverage. Other than that, it's been a fairly low-key month from the council's chair. We've been helping you prep for this hearing this morning on your Prop 218 and assisting with some kind of one-off property related questions. So.
Okay, on to consent calendar. I'll entertain a motion to move the consent calendar.
Move to approve the consent calendar.
Okay, motion to approve the consent calendar by Perez and seconded by Brandes. Board Secretary, please take the roll.
Thank you, Trustee Reader.
Aye.
Reader, I. Gilbert.
Aye.
Gilbert, I. Abdus.
Aye.
Abdus, I. Baines.
Aye.
Baines, I. Brandis.
Aye.
Brandis, I. Perez.
Aye.
Perez, I, Smith.
Aye.
Smith, thank you. Motion's approved.
Okay, motion passes. Okay, moving on to scheduled items, 6.1, Assembly Bill 557. Review and consider authorizing the general manager to submit a letter of support for Assembly Bill 557. On to staff presentation. Kevin, do you have any comments?
I do not. Assembly Bill 557 is kind of an intermediate road between the executive orders that just were suspended for continued remote meetings. As the general manager, I think this is a good step towards furthering the ability to meet remotely should there be a state of emergency declared in the future. But for us, it doesn't have much of an impact. So I'll turn it over and answer any questions on 557. We had this call to action sent by CSDA. And so typically we support these things that are important to other special districts and maybe not to the benefit of just ours.
Okay, so just for clarification, we're just codifying the governor's EO for the next state of emergency.
Correct.
Okay.
It would be issuing a letter of support for Assembly Bill 557 and provide some flexibility during states of emergency as declared by local agencies to meet remotely and relax Brown Act requirements in those situations.
Okay, any questions? You're all good. Okay, I'm going to open for public comment. Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Okay, motion to authorize general manager to submit the letter of support for AB 557 by trustee Abdus and seconded by Gilbert. Board secretary, please take the roll.
Trustee Lee Reader.
Aye.
Lee Reader, I, Gilbert.
Aye.
Gilbert, I, Abdus.
Aye.
Abdus, I, Baines.
Aye.
Baines, I, Brandis.
Aye.
Brandis, I, Perez.
Aye.
Perez, I, Smith.
Aye.
Smith, thank you. It's approved.
Okay, item is approved. On to the next. It's 6.2. CSDA is calling for nominations for a board member. Kevin, do you have any comments for a staff presentation?
Every couple of years, CSDA will send out a call for nominations from our region. And so there is an open seat in election available. And normally we present to the board, and it's typically about this time of year, and ask if any of the trustees would like to be nominated for the election for CSDA for our area. It's typical that either boards of directors or trustees or executive staff, i.e. general manager, would be nominated. It does require the board of trustees to actually take an action to support the nomination if anyone so chose to run for CSDA's board. And so what's before you today, I do have an interest because I think it benefits the district in potentially running for CSDA's board. However, I would take a step back if any of the trustees were interested in running for the CSDA board of directors open seat. Obviously, the trustees would be the priority there. So if there's any trustee that is interested in running for the board, you can make yourself known now. If not, again, as written in the staff report, I would be interested and would ask the board to make a nomination to run for election to CSDA, with the caveat being if any of the trustees, if you guys want to run for the board, you definitely can go do it. But I think it is important for the district to extend our presence in CSDA, and there's lots of benefits to doing it. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Let's have a discussion.
I'd like to ask, what's the level of commitment, Kevin, time-wise?
Well, now that the Prop 218 process and comprehensive financial plan is somewhat behind us, we're going to move swiftly into our capital improvement plan. But I do feel that I'll have a little bit more time to participate more actively in CSDA. And so I believe, from my understanding of their solicitation, it's about 3 to 4 meetings most of them, fortunately for us, are in downtown Sacramento. So not a lot of training or I'm sorry, a lot of travel involved in our participation since we're right next door. So and then just attendance at the annual board or their annual conference once a year, which we're going to in August.
And also legislative days as well. So you would be able to.
Oh,
lobby
yeah. So,
for
yeah,
certain
in
pieces of
May.
legislation,
Yeah.
if you're interested. Okay. Anyone interested?
I noticed none of the expiring seats include anybody that represents a reclamation district. So it might be beneficial for us to consider having somebody nominated. So as best, because I think right now we'll be under the Sierra Network, right, Kevin?
Yes, I believe we are under the Sierra
Yeah.
Network. I believe I saw that too.
Sierra, correct.
So Tom, you were interested?
No, I'm interested in letting Kevin.
Oh, okay. Okay, I just want to be clear. All right, if that's the case, I'll nominate, I'd be happy to nominate Kevin unless there's somebody else that has a burning desire to serve on the Special Districts Association. Second.
You take it.
Okay, motion to nominate General Manager King by Trustee Smith and seconded by, oh, Nick.
Yeah.
Okay, Nick, and then, okay, fine. Seconded by Trustee Smith. Okay, Board Secretary, please take the roll.
Trustee Lee Reader.
Aye.
Lee Reader, I Gilbert.
Aye.
Gilbert, I Abdus.
Aye.
Abdus, I Baines.
Aye.
Baines, I Barandis.
Aye.
Barandis, I Perez.
Aye.
Perez, I Smith.
Aye.
Smith, aye.
Great, items approved. Number 8, closed session. We have no closed session items. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, adios.
Madam President.